Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Fernando. I called this meeting to order at 7:10 p.m. First off, any amendments to the agenda? And if I can, Cass, may I add 2 items, please? Let me know.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, perfect. Can I add I guess final approval for the referenda?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, yes. Can I add a final approval of the agenda of the resolution or yeah, final approval of the referenda? And can I also add discussion from Palmer? Haley, are you that's what it is, right? On the referenda itself, or is it just a discussion item overall that he wanted to come to council for final vote on it?
Let me check the message again really quickly. Referenda approval. So I think it's something we vote on, if I'm not mistaken.
So it sounds like it's the same thing. Is Palmer here?
He's not able to come till 7:30. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we can.
Palmer also emailed like yesterday he needs to be presenting referenda. So is it the final approval of the referenda?
I think one of them is the final approval of the referenda, but I think on Palmer's end, he just wants to make sure that the referenda is passed.
He needs to present the language, I believe.
Okay, sounds good. So I think let's
I'm just gonna,
add it as 2 separate ones, maybe. Okay. Sarah, then Jenny.
Thanks, Breeze. Can I first strike Bruin advocacy grant, and then would I be able to add to new business a resolution on Bruin Hub? I'll drop the link in the chat.
yeah, 1 second. I'm trying to look at the title.
You can put it down as community project funding for Bruin Hub. Commuter project. I'll drop it. I'll type it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jenny.
Hi, can I strike capital contingency?
Yeah. And then promise. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Cass, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, promise.
Jane.
Can you strike art, please?
Yeah. And then Jane.
Can you strike TGIF, please?
Okay. Got that. Oh, let me edit the resolution item.
Okay, Cass, let me know when you're ready or whenever you're good.
I think I'm good.
Awesome. Okay. Can I get an approval of the agenda, please? Or a motion? Can folks hear me?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Promise motions, Haley seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, I'm at 8 hands right now. Okay. 9. Wait, Josh, do we need 10 people we need 10 people, right?
You do need 10 people.
I don't know if folks dropped off, but
We did have quorum when we started. If we don't have 10 people, we can move on without voting, but we wouldn't be able to vote on anything. We wouldn't be able to vote anything in tonight.
okay. It's 7:16.
Cass is on. She can vote.
No, but
Oh, that would be 9. Yeah, I see.
yeah. You gotta be kidding me.
I saw Natalia was on, but I saw that she had dropped off. Is anyone able to send her a message and see if her Wi-Fi just went out?
Yeah. Yeah. We can continue without voting until 10 people come.
Okay, well, wait, could we even, because we needed to motion this agenda in?
Yeah, that's one of the challenges.
Like, we literally can't start this meeting. This is not good, because if we're being honest, like, we have this problem often, and for it to be 20 minutes in, I think is a big issue.
Hi, Breeze, it's Patty. I think we can meet as a committee as a whole without quorum and discuss like officer updates and all those items if you want to move forward into those now, and then we can move into all the action items after once we hit quorum.
Yeah, so we can go on to special presentation, and then we can move on to officer updates. If we get to the end of officer updates and we still don't have 10 folks that can vote, the meeting would end. We would not be able to move forward with any of the resolutions or the referenda. Tonight is the only night, friends. If we cannot vote that in, it does not go on the ballot.
Okay, well, then oh my God.
There's another person that's coming a little bit later. I think Tay said in the group chat that she just ended something right now. So yeah.
No, that's good. Perfect. Sorry, this is a little bit frustrating because we have to pass the referenda and it's the last night. Okay, great. So what did Josh, you said we can move on to officer updates?
Yeah, so we can skip right down to special presentations. So anything that we don't need voting on. So because because funding all consider at least a vote, or at least or opposition, we should skip down to special presentations. If we can start with that, and then we can go into officer updates, and hopefully by the end of officer updates and admin updates, then we can go back up and do funding, and then go to the referenda. I'm sorry, new business. Sorry, not just.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, John. Okay. So Sage, Haley, sorry.
Yeah. Is it okay if Mercy Noah is promoted? They're gonna present with me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Cool. Okay, so just briefly before we get started, well, y'all know me already, so I'm gonna let Mercy introduce themselves real quick before we go ahead and get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mercy. I'm a third year AFM and Social major, and my pronouns are I accept any pronouns.
Awesome, thank you. And just before we get started, I just want to acknowledge some of the people that had supported this initiative that we've been working on. It initially started with AAC as a project put forth by Divya Sharma, who reached out to me to like work on this about a year and a half ago. And so it's been like a work in the process, and really excited to have it finally be presented to council along with the resolution that we're going to put forth later. I want to acknowledge Yen Din, Mercy Noah, Jennifer Nunez, Daphne Cruz, Lena Nguyen, and myself, as well as Divya, for putting forth this resolution and this module for y'all to look at. And it's also going to be like embedded, luckily, like within the EDI website, as well as the LGBTQ Resource Center, which we got commitments from a few weeks ago, actually. So really exciting that we got a lot of progress done. And I'll go ahead and share my screen. I realized that I wasn't already doing that. My bad. Okay, so this is originally supposed to be a longer presentation, but I know that over time, like everyone's attention spans kind of like low-key die out. So we're going to go through it as briefly as we can. But to start off, the module is called the Students for Allyship Through Justice and Education module. So just real quick, running through the objectives, we're going to start with the statement of intent, define language and vocab, diversity in the community and discrimination across intersectional identities, what it means to be LGBTQIA+, and why does it matter, allyship, community resources, and student groups. Just a quick disclaimer as well. This is a shortened version of the module, which excludes the two sections, contributions from the community, as well as local, state, and national legislation. And so we have like a link to the longer presentation as well, if like anyone's really interested in doing that longer version. And then I'll move to the statement of intent. So I'm going to read through it real quick. So the Student Advocates Through Justice and Education module was developed in light of the lack of allyship and LGBTQIA+ community support that has ensued throughout the history of the university. In 2018, a homophobic slur was written on the door of the Academic Affairs Commission's office only days after a pride flag hanging outside the office's door was stolen. These events, once again, served as a statement to the community that homophobia continues to prevail on campus. This comes as no surprise to our LGBTQIA+ Bruins, who only as of 1995 were provided with the campus LGBTQ Center. Today, Bruins in the community remember the recent instances where their safety was not deemed a priority by the university. So in response, this training was made by students in the community to benefit all students regardless of their affiliation with the community. And it is intended to provide you, as future healthcare workers, lawmakers, innovators, in order to create a more equitable society. And we hope that you're going to use this module as a stepping stone on your journey to becoming a more socially conscious community member and or ally. And it says my internet's cutting out a little bit, so I apologize if I cut out at any point. And also included in the module, we do include like a clarifying point, what the acronym is. So that is something that is available. And then we do also include like an acknowledgement of the distinct experiences of BIPOC and white queer folk. I will not be reading through every single little thing because I know it's a lot. So just wanted like summarize basically what is included in the module.
I think we lost Haley.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think that we could. Should we move on, Josh, and then wait until she regains connection?
Yes. Unless are her co-presenters here? Mercy, did you want to take over or?
Yeah, I don't have the shorter version like on my screen.
Got it.
I only have the fuller version.
Okay. then yes, Breeze, we can move.
Oh, Haley's back.
Oh, is she back?
Can you guys hear me? I'm so sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you're good, Haley.
Yeah, I think it should be fine. I moved closer to my internet router, so yeah, okay, hopefully that worked. Let me, oh yeah, I'm gonna try turning my camera off. I'm sorry about that. So I basically passed it off to Mercy to go into language.
Yeah, so this section is the defining language and vocabulary of the community. We basically have this section here for anyone who is affiliated or not affiliated with the community to have a broader understanding and common understanding of language that's used within the community and how to fully respect those definitions, terms, pronouns, etc., for those within the queer community. So we have the redesigned pride flag to start. And this is basically to acknowledge the intersectional experiences of those within the queer community and the diversity that takes place. And to make sure that we're also acknowledging trans identities and Black and Brown identities within this community, because they do disproportionately struggle with a lot of systemic barriers and issues. And then we have the gender uniform, which is basically explaining different levels of gender, sex, and sexuality in a way that's more simplified for, again, anyone who does or doesn't have an understanding of these concepts to kind of just see it visually. And then we have the pronouns, which are very important as well for anyone to understand, especially the concept of neopronouns, just so that everyone can be on the same page with respecting everyone's identities. And then we also have the different flags of different identities within the community. And then we have an answer key for that. And yeah, it's just a little quiz. And then we also have definitions. Again, this is like common terminology and definitions of things that are just topics or concepts or understandings of things that are commonly discussed and experienced within the LGBTQIA+ community. And yeah, that's that section. So I'll go back to Haley now.
Cool. Okay, thank you. And then moving on to the diversity in the community, we did include this portion of the module to acknowledge like the intersectional identities that a lot of folks do carry within the community. And so we do define it and then also include like a self-reflection, such as like, does discrimination look the same for everyone in the community, which we clearly know it is not, especially for folks who may have like a multitude of different identities that are historically oppressed. And so acknowledging that these experiences that folks will face are very different depending on their intersecting identities is something that we wanted to uplift. Okay. And then reflection point, again, we wanted to include a lot of interaction within the module so that students can engage with the material and actually like reflect on the content that's being shared with them. And so we have them reflect on intersectionality, how it applies to them, and why it's important to acknowledge this, and then an area where they can click to learn more. Sorry, navigating Prezi is a little weird, but the next section is basically what it means to be part of the community. And so one section includes being part of the community, specifically in academia in general, and then it hones in on the experience at UCLA. And then we go beyond the experience within academia. So this part just includes a lot of statistics that are incredibly like important for folks to acknowledge. A lot of these things I didn't know myself. And so kind of including these statistics is eye-opening and helps like folks reflect on like the realities of basically what queer and trans youth face on a daily basis. And then I'll just like quickly click on that. There's a lot of more statistics as it pertains to like the experience within academia and then specifically at UCLA. Okay, my bad. And then we go into like how the content is applicable to the individual taking the module. And again, throughout the module, we are trying to be like as inclusive as possible to allies as well. We don't want like people who aren't part of the community to not be as engaged, because this content is like very applicable for them and for their understanding of how they can support community members without like overstepping in any capacity. And then I shall go back to the beginning and then go into allyship. So we do have like a specific area for allies. And so again, we don't want to assume like any level of expertise. And so that's why we included what is an ally in the first place. So there is the definition, which I'll read out. This is an individual who acknowledges the intersectional nature of oppression within a community and advocates in solidarity with folks who face discrimination. And this individual typically does not identify as part of the oppressed group they are being an ally to. Then we go into defining why allyship is important in the first place, explaining why these folks should use their privilege to voice like demands for inclusivity alongside and in unity with oppressed folks. And we did want to acknowledge that allyship does not only apply to folks outside of a community. Allyship within communities is something that is very essential in order to acknowledge the diversity of experiences and again, the different backgrounds that folks may come from based on their intersecting like identities within the community. And again, like reiterating, being accepting or tolerant of a community does not make oneself an ally. And we go into some examples of how you can be an ally. We kind of listed out like the do's and don'ts of allyship. And so we have some examples such as like education, reflection, acknowledgement, working to understand intersectional nature of community struggles, and then actively learning how to listen and apply constructive criticisms to things or criticisms like folks may receive. And then the don'ts. Don't want to assume what people's identities and pronouns are based on what you see. Do not assume what is best for folks in the community. Don't take credit for the labor of the community building you may have participated in as an ally. Don't have expectations of community members to teach you, and don't presume all folks feel a sense of marginalization. Oh, sorry. Okay, and then allyship action. So we have some different scenarios that we also listed out where people can practice like allyship. And so one thing is like you're having a conversation with a friend and refer to them using the wrong pronouns. And so we explain what the person is like recommended to do in this instance, which is like correct yourself and continue the conversation as normal and avoid apologizing profusely in the moment or every time like you speak with that person, because it ends up like running that risk of making that person like uncomfortable. And so, yeah, that's what we have, like 2 other scenarios, basically addressing the same or different like but similar scenarios. Okay. And then finally, we include educational resources for allies, reiterating that allyship is not like a one-time thing. It's more so a lifelong commitment to learning about community's history, celebrating diversity within the community, uplifting community voices, and standing up for the community. And so we do want to encourage folks to like continue their learning process beyond this module. Obviously, this module doesn't contain like everything you need to know about the community. There's so much other rich history that goes beyond the contents of this. And so there are a lot of resources out there, and we did include some Instagrams that folks should follow if they go to like UCLA that post a lot about like things going on within the community. We included like information from Planned Parenthood and resources for teens and allies, and then events that may be hosted by our own resource center here on campus. And then I will let Mercy close out with community resources and student groups.
Okay, so we included this section for all students to access and understand the different types of resources that are available to them. So we have the general and sexual health section, which shows the LGBTQ Campus Resource Center, the ASH Center, and the Bruin Love Station. This is for anyone, again, within or outside of the community to just become more aware of what's available to them on campus and how they can access further resources and assistance. And then we have mental health resources, UCLA CAPS, support groups, and therapy, group therapies, case management, and specific LGBTQ CAPS counselors that are available to the community. And then we have a list of a whole bunch of different orgs that specify or specifically are geared towards the community and uplifting and educating those on the community. So this is again available to anyone to refer their friends to or to use themselves. And we have more orgs. And then what this module basically means for UCLA to be a pioneer in inclusivity. Well, there's not many modules seen in undergraduate communities that are geared towards LGBTQIAP+ issues. And so this would be a great first start for UCLA to be doing that. And a lot of schools don't have the resources or a compiled educational proposition to give to students who are within or outside of the community to inform them of these issues, to build better allies, to create more inclusivity on campus and things of that nature. So this would be a great step forward in that, and this will be a step towards building an inclusive community on campus.
So that actually summarizes the totality of the shortened version of our SAGE module. Thank y'all for listening so much. If anyone has like any questions and wants me to like drop the link to the module like in the chat right now, for sure, like let me know. But yeah, open to questions at this point. Also, if not, that's totally fine. But I'll be sure to drop the link to the module in the chat. But thanks again, y'all. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Haley. Amazing job to both you and yourself, Mercy, and everyone else that has done so much work on this. It was really, really good. Awesome. Okay, so we'll move on to officer reports. I'll start off with my own. As y'all know, we're finally working on finalizing this referenda. Thank you, Josh, for having met with us several times and making sure that we can transition this off to UCOP. They have approved it finally, so we will be voting on that tonight. And then second of all, wanted to talk about the COVID response and recovery task force meeting. Currently, there is still decisions to be done. If, you know, we are to transition to like the unmasked policies that other UCs are currently allowing for. UCLA is still in this back and forth right now, especially with the new variant that came up. There has been like a lot of rhetoric surrounding how we're going to handle cases, specifically, you know, with disabled students who might need the extra assistance. But I do think that I am able to see a bit where some administrators are also being a bit more supportive and understanding and recommending that, you know, we continue the mask mandate just because, you know, in classrooms, it already is affecting how like disabled students are living. So I know Prom was also in the meeting, so I don't know if Prom, you have any thoughts to add, or Taylani, I know you guys have both been very present in these meetings. If not, it's totally okay. And that is all from me.
Are you talking about the meeting from earlier today, please?
Yes, I am, promise. And I wanted to make sure that I had said what I had to be said because I know we both had a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, I think definitely like there's just like a lot that's being weighed. Like different administrators are definitely like split on how to approach it. But Breeze and I did like kind of just like let them know because their entire thing is the fact that like compliance has already been low. So they're trying to essentially, because compliance has been low and across the like state and across the country, different like mandates are being removed. They're trying to be like on par with those mandates. But I think it's just like that's not necessarily the point. So we're definitely going to keep, you know, advocating that they do the right thing and like continue to protect students. But yeah. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Prom. And with that, I'll pass it off to IVP Cass.
Hi, sorry, I was just writing down my notes, but we're continuing to do student org highlights, and then we have an IVP X Care Sexual Assault Awareness Month event this Thursday at 2 p.m. at the SAC in the conference rooms 1 to 3. So that's room 1, 2, and 3. It's an opportunity for folks to meet with the care staff. And then this week I finalized the USAC appointment application and also like the generated emails that appointments get with Karen. And then I'm planning to meet with ECRT to talk about how to move forward with the IVP Grant Relief Award. That's all for my notes. My office is finally going to meet this quarter tomorrow, so I don't have too many updates.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so for my office, we actually got to meet in person with some folks from ASUCLA event staff, including Patty, thank you, Patty, and Ackerman Grand Ballroom to do a walkthrough of what the mayoral event will look like. And we're really excited for that, inviting all the candidates and getting Univision to televise the event. So that was just cool to see everything like starting to come together in person. Aside from that, tomorrow is Black Lobby Day, and we're excited to be sending 8 Bruins, including some folks from my office. I think Carl's going, Simone from ASU is going. So looking forward to seeing how the trip goes. We are planning for UC Hill Day again. Federal relations team is working on community project funding for Bruin Hub, as I'll explain a little later in the resolution. And then we are also working on distributing some funds for the Trailblazer Scholarship. That is like a 1.6K fund that we can distribute to one recipient. And then with the surplus from my office's budget, we're also looking to create some sort of scholarship. Maybe that's like smaller in dollar amount, but we can give out to more Bruins. So similar to Bruin Advocacy Grant, but for individuals and not organizations per se. And then as for our university relations, we're working to tackle some academic planning questions regarding the 20,000 by 2030 promise that, or request that President Drake has made of all 9 UC campuses, and what it would look like for UCLA to establish satellite campuses or shift more of its instruction permanently online, which goes hand in hand with our discussion about hybrid learning. But that is about it from my office, and I will pass it on to Angie.
Thank you, Sarah.
So this past week, the Academic Senate and the Chancellor sent out an email to all students and faculty endorsing remote access and dual learning modalities, which is a really huge win that uplifts the efforts that the DSU and USAC and the MOs have been fighting for. And then also this past week, my office also released our spring Books for Bruins application. So feel free to share that with any folks who might be interested. And we also had our CalFresh workshop. And then this upcoming Thursday, we have our Financing Higher Education workshop, which will have more resources on how students can fund their college experience beyond using the FAFSA. And then we also released our giveaway for alleviating food insecurity this past week, and we hosted our weekly social justice mentorship workshop on Sunday. And we are currently in the process of creating a survey to get student testimonials on Canvas and accessing course Canvas pages because there currently is a delay between when students enroll in classes and when they're able to access their Canvas pages and their syllabi. So the survey will hone in on the need for getting syllabi prior to course enrollment and why it's better for accessibility purposes for students to have access to syllabi. But yeah, that is it for my office. Thank you all.
Okay, on to admin reps. So Jessica?
And Jessica's not here today. I'm representing ASUCLA.
Okay, George?
No updates from me, surprisingly.
Josh?
No updates for me this week. Thank you.
Orlando?
Oh, sorry about that. I couldn't find the mute button. Hello, everyone. No updates tonight.
Okay. Fernando?
Hey everyone, just again reminding everyone that I have transitioned over to SGA and I am here right now to facilitate USAC Live, but hopefully Cass will help me out with that, so you might see me less often during these meetings. And I am doing my best to get things flowing in SJ again. And if you guys ever need help right now during these next couple of months, if you need immediate help, feel free to stop by the Student Government Accounting and we can help you out there. Our email is a little bit impacted right now, so yeah.
Thank you, Fernando. So I thought it was either Jessica or Patty, sorry.
Yeah, hi everyone, Patty here tonight. I just want to reiterate, Fernando, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you joining over on our Student Government Accounting team. And then, so if there are any services questions that aren't related to Student Government Accounting, please forward those to Jessica or feel free to CC myself as well. We can help support those questions or inquiries coming through. We're also be of assistance as we're moving forward into spring quarter for contracts and other documents, offer letters, sponsorship agreements, etc. So please feel free to field those over to Jessica and I, so Fernando can kind of refocus a little bit. If you have any questions, we're always here to help and support. And just looking forward, if you hadn't had a chance to drop by and join the event we had on Friday evening, we had our mural unveiling on our Ackerman first floor. It's really amazing and beautiful, and I'd love to have you all stop by and see it. and looking forward to more events and our collaborations with both EVP and CEC with another movie night. So hope you're all having a good night. Talk to you soon.
Okay, perfect. So with that, Josh, we can move on to back to funding, right?
Let's go back, since we have everybody now, let's go back to the beginning, vote in the meeting, the minutes, public comment, then funding.
Okay. Okay, can I have an approval for the agenda, please?
I move to approve the agenda for April 5th, 2022.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Haley motions, pass the seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, by a vote of 11 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the agenda for this week is approved. Great, moving on to approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion, please, for last week's agenda minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from March 29th.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Emily motions, Momina seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, by a vote of 10 to 0 to 0, 10 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the approval for last week's minutes are approved. Moving on to public comment. Public comment is a time where any member of the public may come and speak to council. Remember to use gender inclusive language, use respectful language. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability. And with that, we will be moving on to public comment. If any member of the public would like to speak at this time, they will be promoted. Yes, so public comment is open, and Cass, if you see anyone that, okay. Okay, Simone.
Hey y'all, I don't know if the referenda was talked about already, but I just wanted to give a shout out to people who helped work on it, not even just helping, but just also supporting. Shout out to the transfer students. I don't know if any of them are here, but we appreciate the help from the TLC as well. It's been a long time coming. UCOP we were fighting for this language, but I'm happy that that we barely made it. We barely made it, but we made it for the ballot deadline. And I'm excited to see what comes this election season for the BVRC and the TSC. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of y'all. Big thanks to Josh. There was a lot of a lot of back and forth. We appreciate you being the messenger and really trying to help us get this done.
Thank you so much, Simone. We really appreciate all your work and labor on this, and we look forward to hopefully having this passed and finally approved tonight. Great. So moving on, let me see what else we had to talk about. So with that, I'll be closing public comment at 7:54 p.m. Moving straight on to a resolution uplifting LGBTQ plus. Oh wait, no, we need to do funding. Well, contingency.
Hi guys. Here's the link in the chat. So this week we are funding $22,392.88 to 25 non-USAC entity and 1 USAC entity. Let me know if you have any questions.
If not, can I get a motion, please?
I move to fund $22,392.88 to 25 non-USAC entities and 1 USAC entity.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Jane motions, Haley seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, we're missing a hand. Okay, with the vote of 10 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and contingency is approved. Moving on to SFS, Momina.
Hi everyone. So this week we have a total of $8,379.39 allocated to 4 non-CSC orgs and 3 CSC orgs, and I'll put that in the chat as well.
Amazing. Can I get a motion, please?
I move to
I think this is just consent, or yeah, or I'm sorry, the non-voting.
Yeah, no, it is. Okay, awesome. Is there any opposition? If not, moving on to SWC.
Hi y'all, sorry, my mute button. Yeah, okay, so SWC Programming Fund, we allocated $2,181 to 4 non-USAC entities. Yeah.
Okay, can I get a motion, please?
This is consent as well, Breeze.
Yeah, sorry, I'm like messed up. I'm sorry. ASRF.
Hi everyone. This week for ASRF, we allocated $2,500 to 3 non-USAC entities. Yeah.
Okay. Any opposition? If not, again, TGMF and TMG.
Yeah. For TGMF, we allocated $4,200 to 3 non-USAC entities.
Okay, is there any opposition? If not, okay, and we close off our funding section. Moving on to a resolution uplifting LGBTQ plus communities at UCLA. Haley?
Let me check screen again. Okay, so I'll go ahead and read through this. So this is a resolution honoring the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, pansexual, and other marginalized orientations / identities, LGBTQIA plus, P plus community at UCLA through the SAGE module. So it's kind of conjunction with the module that we presented earlier. Sponsored by myself and Angie, co-sponsored by Jane. I'll go ahead and read through it. So whereas in 2018, a pride flag hanging on the door of the AAC's office was stolen, whereas days after the aforementioned hate crime, a homophobic slur was etched onto the door of the sitting commissioner, Divya Sharma, whereas following the hate crimes perpetrated against the 2018 Academic Affairs Commissioner, the Students for Allyship and Justice Through Education proposal was established as an allyship training program to educate students about the community and its history. Whereas the SAGE module or proposal garnered the support of the Student Organization and Leadership Engagement Office, SOL, and received the Charles E. Young Humanitarian Award. Whereas after years of labor and activism on behalf of the community on campus that made possible the first Gay Awareness Week at UCLA in 1974, hosted by the Gay Student Union, GSU, the establishment of, there's 2 ofs, let me just, of the UCLA Lesbian and Gay Faculty / Staff Network and the Lambda Alumni Association in 1989, and the creation of the Chancellor's Advisory Committee on Lesbian and Gay Issues in 1990, the LGBTQ Campus Resource Center was finally was finally opened its doors to the community on campus in 1995. Whereas the University of California, Los Angeles, as an institution, was founded on the exclusion of historically marginalized communities, including the LGBTQIA+, P+, whereas the University of California, Los Angeles's continued alignment with entities such as the University of California Police Department represents a false and performative allyship, considering the history of discrimination, harassment, and profiling disproportionately affecting the LGBTQIA+ community. Whereas data gathered by the UCLA School of Law William Institute from 2012 to 2016 via telephone interviews conducted on 350,000 US adults who were 18 and up and resided in the United States found that 5.3% of the population in California identified as LGBT, whereas UCLA resides in Los Angeles County, where the LGBTQIA+ community in the Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim metropolitan area make up 4.6% of the population as of 2012, with numbers assumed to have increased according to the national average from the same Gallup survey, increasing from 3.6% in 2012 to 5.6% in 2020. Whereas students at this institution represent our future healthcare workers, lawmakers, and innovators, whereas through education on LGBTQIA+ issues, collective efforts amongst all students wield the power to change and create an inclusive environment for the community. LOL, sorry, just noticed that. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council recognizes and uplifts the unique history of the community at UCLA in the struggle for equity in higher education. Let it be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council acknowledges the hate crimes in 2018 perpetrated against the sitting AAC and greater LGBTQIA+ community at large. Let it be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council supports the institutionalization of the SAGE module as an educational initiative for allyship with the community per the wishes of the 2018 Academic Affairs Commissioner. Let it be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council President be required to add the module as a resource to their quarterly presidential emails. Let it finally be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council commits to encouraging students to educate themselves on the community's history of activism, cultivate a safe space for the community, and actively invite community members to take space in student leadership at UCLA. That was a mouthful, but that is a totality of the resolution. If anyone has any questions, let me know, but I believe we vote on this now.
Okay. Are there any questions for Haley?
Also, I can't see the raise hand function. So if you raise your hand, can you just unmute? No questions is also fine. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Can I get a motion?
Am I allowed to motion the proposal, even though I put it forth?
Yes, you can motion that.
Oh yeah, okay. I move to, I guess, pass the resolution honoring the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, pansexual, and other marginalized identities community at UCLA through the SAGE module resolution.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Haley motions, Angie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, and by a vote of 11 to 0 to 0, the motion passes, and the SAGE the resolution uplifting LGBTQ plus community at UCLA is approved. Great. Moving on to the next one. Haley, you gotta have the floor again.
Oh, well, okay. Thank you guys so much for passing the previous resolution. Very much appreciated. I'll share my screen again. Okay. Cool. I'll also read through this one. So this is a resolution honoring the work of the Undocumented Student-Led Network cohorts report on resource accessibility across the UC campuses through undocumented students' experiences. Sponsored by myself, co-sponsored by Jane and Angie. Whereas the Undocumented Student-Led Network's USN's mission is to establish a statewide network of immigrant youth leaders to advance reform agendas on the issue of immigration. Whereas the Undocumented Student-Led Network's organizing subcommittee of the UC cohort 2021 compiled a 40-page evaluation report on resource accessibility across the UC system through undocumented students' experiences. Whereas the evaluation report aims to raise awareness of resource disparities across the UC, give solutions to better support the academic, professional, and personal development of undocumented students, and highlight student experiences. Whereas the report reveals consistent sentiments regarding resource accessibility and utilization across the UC campuses, whereas the University of California has been recognized globally and exists as a highly funded institution that fails to amply support its undocumented students. Whereas the organizing committee, in spite of having no fellows on 3 campuses, took initiative in examining the resources available on campuses beyond their own. Whereas the report thoroughly compares undocumented student services / centers, organizations, financial aid and scholarships, fellowships and internships, professional development, research opportunities, academic counseling, mental health counseling, food access, housing, legal services, and graduate student support across the UC campuses. Whereas the report highlights students from 7 out of the 8 participating campuses mentioning their use of some form of basic needs assistance. Whereas the report identifies 5 trends across the system regarding accessibility and barriers to resource access, including limited funding, guilt, stigma, outreach efforts, and physical location of the services on campus. Whereas the report emphasizes the unfair condition undocumented students face as required to engage in taxing advocacy for fair access to resources to succeed, and are still sometimes not listened to with regards to university policies that impact them. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated some of the inequities regarding accessibility to resources for undocumented students. Whereas the report outlines specific recommendations for the university looking ahead that include providing sufficient funding for undocumented student resources, allowing undocumented individuals to actively take part in the creation of resources for undocumented students, increasing efforts to highlight resources for undocumented students, and reclassifying jobs or creating more internships and fellowships to allow access to undocumented students, and making career fairs more undocumented-friendly. Whereas the report also includes a list of resources available to undocumented students at each UC campus. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council acknowledges the labor of the organizing committee's work in developing this extensively thorough evaluation report. Let it be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association actively uplifts and supports the undocumented community at UCLA by inviting undocumented students to administrative meetings that pertain to related campus policy impacting the community. Let it be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council is inclusive and actively consults community leaders for input on campus initiatives. Let it finally be resolved that the Undergraduate Student Association Council will publicize and urge administration to review and consider the report in all future decisions regarding campus policies and resource development. I'm fully out of breath, but yes. That is all, if anyone has questions.
Awesome work again, Haley. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Haley?
I just wanted to add, because it would behoove me to not, but these the leaders of the Undocumented Student-Led Network were able to do this because they were placed and were provided fellowship placements through the Dream Summer program, which is a program that the Dream Resource Center here at UCLA has been putting on for the last 10 years. So I think that just to say that we need to provide as many opportunities to folks who tend to not have those opportunities, because when we do, we get amazing work like the report that they did.
Thank you, George. Are there any other questions, comments? If not, can I get a motion, please?
I move to pass a resolution honoring the work of the Undocumented Student-Led Network, USN's cohorts report on resource accessibility across the UC campuses through undocumented students' experiences.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Jane motions, Angie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. And by a vote of 11-0, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. Great. Moving on to statement in solidarity with transfer students. Jane?
Yeah, one sec. Okay. I'm just gonna share my screen with this. I think myself and a couple of other members of council wrote this. I'm not sure if we should kind of look over it and then maybe we can sign on to it as a council, or those who want to sign on can sign on, but obviously this is something that the TLC asked us to write, so I'll just read it as well. To the UCLA student community. As this year's elected USAC 2021 to 2022 council, we want to write this statement in solidarity with the transfer student community and acknowledge past and present exclusion of the transfer student community within USAC spaces. Transfer students are an extremely diverse community of students on campus that face unique forms of exclusion and discrimination that are not acceptable. As a council, we want to recognize that transfer students are not a monolith. Transfer students are students of color, first generation, commuter students, formerly incarcerated students, parenting scholars, former foster youth, students in recovery, and students from a plethora of identities beyond those mentioned here. We collectively recognize and will hold ourselves accountable for our lack of outreach to the Transfer Leadership Coalition, Transfer Student Representative, and other transfer student leaders across campus. Active inclusion of transfer community leaders in co-programming and collaboration on campus-wide initiatives is critical in order to continue a campus-wide cultural shift that uplifts and welcomes the transfer experience. Without the leadership of transfer students, ongoing initiatives supporting some of our campus's historically underrepresented communities would not prevail. Transfer advocacy has been a history of advocacy for access, retention, and community building from students from unique paths entering higher education. We acknowledge the additional barriers transfer students in particular face upon transferring to a four-year institution. In addition to the existing cultural shock that transfers are expected to adjust to in a shorter time span, transfer students also face barriers to accessing both membership and leadership roles within student organizations not specifically designed to include the community. We want to make it clear that transfer students are just as qualified and deserving of any positions within student organizations and student government as any direct entry student. As our campus community has failed on numerous accounts to include transfer voices, it is our responsibility as representatives of the greater student body to advocate for an enriched college experience for all students alike. We have failed to do so thus far, and for that we apologize to the transfer community and commit to initiate the collaboration and inclusion necessary to uplift the community. In the future, we commit as a council to ensuring that transfer students feel included, uplifted, and respected in all aspects of student government at UCLA. Additionally, as we are ending our terms in the coming weeks, we commit to ensuring that all newly elected council members uphold the same solidarity with the transfer student community during our transition period. We recognize that this is a task that each individual council member must undertake in order to ensure that the historical cycle of transfer exclusion in USAC is broken. We cannot and will not allow the mistakes made by ourselves and past council members continue to harm marginalized communities such as the transfer community on our campus for years to come. So that's it. So I don't know if people have edits or want to sign on or thoughts or whatever.
Thank you so much, Jane. Okay, I don't know do we just message you if we want to sign on, Jane, or how should we go about this?
I guess we can just write like your name. Oh, okay. Let me drop a link that is like editable, so that people can sign on.
Okay, thank you, Jane. With that, we can move on to the earn official language and the final approval of the agenda. So I was wondering Josh, can you share that language on your screen? Sorry.
I can.
Thank you.
Oh Lord, yes, I can. All right, I believe you can all see it, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I know folks have seen this before. So Josh, should I read it out loud just so it's make sure that everyone's voting on it?
Yes.
Okay. Referenda in question earn the education, access, and retention now. Shall the Undergraduate Student Association address the space, resource, and programming needs of the Black Bruin Resource Center and Transfer Student Center by implementing the earn fee of $5 per undergraduate student for fall, winter, and spring quarters, $3 per UC undergraduate student enrolled at UCLA in summer session, beginning in fall of 2022. This fee will be adjusted annually by the Los Angeles County Consumer Price Index in order to address the changes due to inflation and rising cost of living beginning in fall of 2023. Consistent with the UC policy, 25% of the amount collected, $125 per quarter in academic year 2022 to 2023, will be returned to the undergraduate financial aid. The remainder of the funding will be broken down, providing 80% of the fee, $3 per quarter in the annual year 2022 to 2023 to support the Black Bruin Resource Center, and 20% of the fee, 75 cents a quarter in annual academic year 2022 to 2023 to support the Transfer Student Center. I support the $5 earn referenda fee to support the Black Bruin Resource Center and the Transfer Student Center, yes or no. And that'll be the language. Can I get a motion, please? Or first off, I guess any questions? If there are no other questions, can I get a motion, please?
I move to approve the earned referenda language.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Jane motions, Haley seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, 9. All abstaining? Taylani, sorry. Can you lower your hand? And then all abstaining, wait. Were you abstaining, Natalia?
Oh no, I forgot to vote for yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, Josh, would I have to motion that again? I just want to make sure that we're good.
So that would bring it to 10, correct?
Yes, it would. So by a vote of 10 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the earn referenda is approved for this coming election season. Great. Okay. Thank you all so much. Moving straight into the final approval of the referenda. Was that it? Or Palmer, is there any need for you to approve of it as well?
I just needed 2/3 of council on there. So as long as we got that, it's good. I just also, I think if Simone is the representative for this, I also need her contact information so I can add her to my candidate list.
Amazing. Okay, Simone, are you available to maybe drop your information? And if not, Palmer, can I connect with you after and then just make sure?
Yeah, you can just send me an email or something. And then also, so the language at the very end of the referenda, I know it's not going to be included in the ballot, but it's going to be linked. Is that also finalized, or is there anything that might change with that?
No, I don't think that anything else will. I think we're good to go.
Okay, because that's just going to be a link, so I don't know if that like needs to be finalized in the same way or like can be changed at all. But I just wanted to clear that up in case y'all wanted to change anything on there, because I know that kind of gives more details in the whole, in like most of the general information there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'll have to talk with Simone and then we can talk from there, I guess.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Yeah, just as long as I just want to put Simone on our email list for candidates, and then we'll be good. Okay, thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you, Palmer. Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions? If not, we are good to go to our last item, which is a resolution in support of additional federal funding for the Bruin Hub Commuter Student Project. Sarah, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you, Breeze. So I'll just read this one out. It was written by our federal relations team in partnership with UCLA Government and Community Relations. So I'll get right into it. Whereas there is a true need for commuter students and houseless student support from the university, whereas Westwood, the closest living community to the UCLA campus, has the highest average rent prices in California, forcing many students to live further from campus to save money, whereas a super commute, defined as a 90-plus minute one-way commute, is a constant reality for at least 18% of students who live off campus, whereas almost half of the students experience housing insecurity and 15% of the students face houselessness during their undergraduate career, whereas UCLA has committed to returning to predominantly in-person instruction, so most students will need to report to campus to receive and excel at their education, whereas the issues of long commutes and houselessness disproportionately affect Black, Indigenous, and people of color UCLA students, whereas UCLA's City Lab, a team of students, advocates, and administrators at UCLA, otherwise known as the Bruin Hub Coalition, have created a new resource space on campus called the Bruin Hub, which provides rest and community to students with long and extreme commutes and for students experiencing housing insecurity. Whereas due to the after effects of the pandemic, we are seeing even more students commuting or facing forms of financial, housing, or food insecurity. For UCLA to meet the needs of these students, we had to prioritize creative solutions to centralize resources that address the experience of students most affected by the crisis. The Bruin Hub is one such solution that, with an expanded mandate, has assisted in providing a safe and accessible space for underserved students. Whereas the University of California provided the seed money to create the initial space with 5 pods. The fiscal year 22 CPF award of $450,000 will allow us to increase to 10 pods. Our new proposal builds upon the initial grant to expand the Bruin Hub reach to serve more commuter housing insecure students with an expansion of the current commuter space and adding many satellite locations. Whereas since opening in fall 2021, even during hybrid learning, the Bruin Hub has served 1,368 students with only 5 pods. This expansion of 20 pods will result in a 600% increase in our ability to serve students. Whereas the fiscal year 2023 CPF funding would allow for not only a physical expansion of current Bruin Hub, but it would provide funding to support operations, programmatic elements, resource development, and the creation of 2 mini satellite Bruin Hubs, providing 20 additional pods in designated commuter high traffic areas of the campus. Whereas the ability for the university to expand the Bruin Hub project would be augmented upon receipt of the Community Program Fund, or CPF, as I referred to it before, support from Senator Alex Padilla or Senator Dianne Feinstein, and the university is in the process of applying for said funding. Whereas the additional university, state, and federal support is needed to combat UCLA student housing insecurity with additional interventions such as rent relief, housing grants, and new university and private affordable housing construction needed to address systemic housing unaffordability for students in Los Angeles. Whereas we envision partnerships with local community colleges to model our commuter student support and serve in an advisory role to support the needs of this diverse student population. Therefore, let it be resolved that the UCLA Undergraduate Students Association Council supports the request for $1 million in congressional community project funding from the fiscal year 2023 budget to support UCLA's Bruin Hub and address student housing insecurity. So that is the resolution. TLDR, there's a huge wave of money from Congress that we're hoping to secure for more pods, and there's a lot of traffic in the existing 5 pods, and we just want to expand the capacity there and also add 2 new locations so it's more accessible to students, and there are more resources, staffing, programs, grants that can go into the program. So it's more than just the physical space that we're providing for commuter students and students who require these services. Does anybody have any questions?
If there are no questions, can I get a motion, please? Hello?
We can hear you, Breeze.
Okay.
I move to approve a resolution in support of additional federal funding for the Bruin Hub Commuter Student Project.
Can I get a second, please?
I second.
Jane motions, Haley seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Great, and by a vote of 10 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the resolution is approved. Awesome, thank you so much, Sarah. We really appreciate your work on this. Great, so with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:26 p.m. Fernando, will you